I'm Amanda, and this is Not Your Granny's Quilt Show. Welcome to today's episode, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. I have Lisa of Lovering Quilt Co with me today. She's a delight. She has just such a fun perspective on quilting. She came into it from a crafty family like I did, which is kind of fun, but she didn't really start quilting until like the mid 2010s and came from like the apparel fashion design world. So it's just funny to hear her stories of like having way too much seam allowance and all that stuff. So anyway, but now Lisa runs her quilt shop out of her home. She's got all the fun ruby stars. She's got some art gallery. She just has such a cute curated shop that is just so fun to look at. And so I hope you go check her out while you are listening to our conversation. Hey, y'all. I'm here to get you on this cozy earth train with me. I am still in love with my luxurious bamboo sheet set, and now I'm head over heels in love with the bamboo pajama set. I'm going to be real with you. I really struggle to find pajamas that fit. It's such a frustrating process. The legs are never long enough, sleeves are never long enough on the tops, and I just get frustrated because I just want to be cozy. So when I saw that I was able to order a tall in these Cozy Earth pajamas, I was floored. I was hoping for the best, and you know what? My expectations were exceeded. Not only are the pants plenty long enough, the sleeves are plenty long enough, and they fit my body so great. The pajamas are crafted with a stretch knit, so they stay comfortable and have a beautiful drape. And the breathability of the fabric keeps your temperature regulated, so you're not ever too hot or too cold. Putting these pajamas on was like a Christmas miracle. So if you're looking for the perfect gift for that someone in your life that just has everything, or you want to give yourself the gift of comfort this holiday season, look no further than Cozy Earth. Go to cozyearth.com and use code GRANNYS, that's GRANNYS, at checkout to receive 40% off. Upgrade your nights and transform your days with Cozy Earth. The link is in the show notes. And now onto the episode. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I've been wanting to get you on for a while, so
I know. Sorry about that.
no, it's fine. It's fine. It's all good. It all works out when it's supposed to, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just been
So,
chaos over here with the new puppy and then collections coming in back to back and then being sick. So,
yeah, you're finally on the downhill slide of it,
Yes,
right?
one thing after another, and I'm finally feel like a human again. So,
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better because I know it was like touch and go for a couple weeks.
yeah. Yep.
And
It's a great time.
your little,
Great. Love being sick.
yeah, right? With a menace of a puppy and
Yeah. She's insane.
yeah.
I love her to
Um,
death, but we're working on training. So,
mhm. Well, that doesn't make running a business very easy
does not.
when you're trying to manage that energy and get stuff done. So I
Yeah.
applaud you for trying and for,
Thank you. I definitely couldn't do it without my husband,
yeah,
even though he works full time. Like
yeah,
he takes a lot of the dog front. He
yeah,
he's the human chew toy to her.
yeah.
So
You're like, you take that thing. I got stuff to do.
yeah, I'm like, my turn, bye.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So
Uh, okay, so you are the owner and queen bee of Lovering Quilt Co, which we'll
yes,
get
ma'am.
to. But for the listeners who don't know you yet, let's talk about how you even got into the quilting world.
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess I should start with like my background and like what I went to school for and stuff too. That
Mhm.
would probably be helpful to know. So I always grew up around crafting and sewing. My mom used to make our Halloween costumes. My grandma used to crochet, and they both, my aunt was a rubber stamper from Stampin' Up.
Yeah.
She did like the demonstrations and stuff, so we'd always go out to her house and craft. And so crafting has always kind of been in our family. And I went to school. I went to community college for fine arts, so I have my associate's degree in fine arts. And I wanted to do that because at that time, that was the path that I was told I needed to take to become a fashion designer. So
Mhm.
I wanted to be a fashion designer from a young age. Probably I think it was like as early as third grade. I remember being like, I want to go to fashion school and design dresses or whatever.
Mhm.
I don't really remember why that was. I mean, like obviously I had Barbies growing up, so that was probably a good part of it, was like I loved all the dresses and everything like that from Barbie, and like we
Yeah.
made clothes and stuff when I was with my grandma.
Mhm.
Like we always made dresses and stuff for all the garage sale Barbies she'd pick up.
Yeah.
Um, and like I've been sewing since probably 7 or 8 years old, with the assistance of my mom and my grandma.
Sure. Mhm.
Um, but as I got older, it was like kind of like I wanted to do more with it, but I
Mhm.
didn't really know how, and I wasn't overly confident. So for me to just take the step or take the leap to try and do something myself was a very scary thing for me growing
Mhm.
up. So like a lot of the time I'd be like, Mom, I want to make this. How do I do it? Can you help me? And my mom, working full time,
Mhm.
I'm the third kid in the family, the youngest.
Mhm.
She didn't always have a lot of time to do that while she was keeping the household running.
Mhm.
So, we would do that when we could. But it wasn't until probably after college. And so I did my bachelor's degree in
Okay.
fashion textile technology. I
Okay.
did not do fashion design because I realized I couldn't draw. Which is a very interesting, I mean, like I can, but I can't. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, sure.
it's like questionable. I realized that through art school. So that
Yeah.
was like not a great realization. I
You're like,
really
oh.
love, yeah, I really love to paint and I enjoy painting.
Mhm.
Um, so I could at least do that. And I did very well in the painting parts of my associate's degree.
Yeah.
But then I finished my bachelor's out at Buffalo State.
Mhm.
Um, and I did fashion textile technology because that's the overarching degree. And
Okay.
then under that, there's four different like curriculums you follow.
Okay.
So there is, I think it was product and industrial design, fashion merchandising, which is what I did, and then there was
Okay.
one other one, and I can't remember what the other one was. I think it was like interior design, which I don't know why they
Okay.
put that under fashion textile, but
I don't
so
know.
I went for fashion merchandising. So it was a lot of the business of behind fashion and
Yeah.
the like, I mean, for me, because I was a transfer student and I already had my associate's degree, because it's all within this. I went to SUNY schools. So SUNY is State University of New York.
Okay.
Um, so when you go to SUNY schools, credits will transfer.
Sure.
Um, they're like legally obligated to transfer to other
Yeah.
SUNY schools. But when it's a very particular curriculum like that, sometimes they don't.
Mm.
So because I didn't have that same curriculum at community college, I didn't have any fashion credits or classes until I
Okay.
got to Buffalo State.
Okay.
So as a transfer student, you're like, oh, I just have 2 more years and then I'm done with my bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
But for a fashion student, you have to do an internship, you have to do all your freshman classes, and then I did like a bunch of freshman classes, and then I did a bunch of senior level classes. So it was like I didn't really get a lot of the in-between classes, which would have showed me how to pattern drape, how to draft a pattern. And like,
Mm.
granted, I've learned those things over time myself.
Sure.
I'm not like the best at it, but I can fumble around with it.
Yeah.
And I know how to like make adjustments to patterns myself now. But a
Mm.
lot of that comes from my mom
Sure.
when I was sewing with her
Yeah.
and just kind of like also like I don't want to say intuitive, but just like
Mhm.
looking at it and like problem solving.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
um, quilting itself didn't really present itself to me as something I would enjoy until I was in a college class, and it was a freshman college class for textiles. And the professor got a grant from Cotton Incorporated.
Mm,
And it was like the grant was about the importance of using 100% cotton in cotton quilts.
hmm
So she picked out the fabric, and then a bunch of us, it was like almost like an extra credit project, I think, if I remember correctly. So
mm,
like a bunch of us stayed after class and like did a bunch of them, but we made log cabins, and she printed
okay.
out the paper, and we sewed log cabins on to the paper.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because that was kind of like my first real experience with quilting.
Yeah.
Um, and then that was that. Like the quilt was shown at like our little art center, and then that was that. It was
Mm,
whatever. Like it was
yeah.
just that was done.
Yeah.
And I didn't really remember that until like recently. I was like, "Oh yeah." Like I was going through some of my old fabric scraps and like getting rid of older stuff.
hmm
Um, and I found like the little bag of the fabric scraps from that project, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that."
Yeah.
And I can't find pictures of it. I know I have them on a digital camera somewhere.
Right? Like you do.
Somewhere they live and they exist, but I can't find it. So hopefully one day I'll find that. But
Yeah.
so that was really my first experience with quilting itself. Um, there aren't any quilters historically that I know of in my family, but we know there's someone in my family who quilted because
hmm
when we were cleaning out my grandmother's house, we found a bunch of yo-yos, the little fabric
Uh-huh.
yo-yo circles all sewn together with shirt scraps, like shirting scraps,
Oh,
because they're all striped and everything like that. And I
yeah.
have those. They are put away right now,
Yeah.
but I have those, and it looks like they were made to be like a bed topper. But
Okay.
we don't know who made them in my family. We know it's from my grandmother and my grandfather's side, but we're not sure which side. And
Yeah.
so somebody made something like that, but it wasn't like, oh, this person quilted, so I quilted, so then I quilted.
Right. Yeah.
Um, Funny enough, my aunt now quilts,
Mm.
and I went to an expo with her in 2013, I think it was,
hmm
maybe 2014, I can't remember. But me, her, and my mom went to an expo in Massachusetts, and that was like the first time I bought fat quarters,
Yeah.
aside from like Joann's,
Sure.
like actually quilt shop quality
Yeah.
stuff. And that was really cool. A lot of fun. I definitely felt like my mom was judging me a little bit for how much fabric I was buying because she doesn't buy fabric until she's ready to make a project, which
Yeah.
definitely didn't get that self-control from her. So
Yeah. That's a different vibe.
I applaud her for it.
Yeah.
Um, Not my thing, but
Yeah, sure, sure. You do you.
Um, but really like the first time that I tried to quilt myself was um earlier in earlier in 2013. My grandma was my best friend growing up. She lived around the
Mm,
corner from us. I spent their time there every day after school during the summer, like when I was too young to be on my own in the
mhm,
summer. I was there every day during the summer. We would bake, we would cook, we'd do things together, we'd take walks, just
mhm.
you just be a normal kid at their grandma's house.
Yeah.
Um, because I was there, my brothers were with me when they were too young to do other things too, but
Yeah.
um because I was there, I didn't have a lot of like friends
Mm,
in school or in the neighborhood. I just kind of was like chilling on my own.
yeah.
Um Not to mention like crafty friends.
hmm
I feel like when you meet your first crafty friend, it's just a different breed.
Yeah. Yeah, for
You're
sure.
just like, "Oh,
Okay.
we're bonded for life now."
Yeah. The vibes are immaculate.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so, and my grandma did a lot of craft projects with me, and she just was, we were always keeping busy, or we were watching movies, or
hmm
we just were like, she was a very engaged grandmother, and
Mm,
it was just so great to have that time growing up with her, and I miss her every single day. She was my best
mm,
friend.
yeah.
But her and my grandpa, so they lived around the corner from us, and um the first time I wanted to actually quilt was she went into the hospital and I wanted to make her a comfort quilt because I was like, and then when she gets out of the hospital, she can use it.
Hmm.
She didn't, unfortunately, did not come out of the hospital and she did
Mm.
pass. Um, but I had, I remember I had a cutting mat that had like a huge gash out of it because somebody in the house used it for some tool thing with their car or Jeep or something.
Murder.
I don't know. No, not murder. But it was like this like big, like when you use a utility knife, it
Yeah.
really cut it deep. So I was like trying to use that. I didn't have a ruler. I had a rotary cutter. I had bought like a little Fisker's rotary cutter and I
Hmm.
was just like, I don't understand how people keep things straight while they're cutting.
Yeah. Oh my
It just didn't
gosh.
make sense to me at all. And I'm
Yeah.
just like in I'm in our spare bedroom, which then was previously my brother's old room.
Hmm.
When they moved out, it became like the craft lair for me and my mom
Yeah.
in the guest room because we had a bed in there too, but nobody ever came to stay with us. Um, and it was like I was trying to cut, and I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. So I just like I took it and I just put it all aside because I
Yeah.
was getting so frustrated. And then like at some point, like I tried to work on it almost every single day. And then at some point I realized like she's not gonna make it. So
Mm.
I put it aside. It was too much for me to look at, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she unfortunately passed away. I mean, she was 86, so she lived a great long life.
Yeah.
But she was my best friend and I miss her every day. So,
Mm, I'm sorry.
um, it's okay. One of the ways that I try to embody her and her values and everything
Hmm.
like that, um, is just basically like, treat people how they want to be treated, you know, put kindness out into the world and
Yeah.
just try to be a good person. Just try. It's
Yeah.
like you don't have to be a good person 24/7, but just try to be a good person to other people, you know.
Yeah.
And actually she and my grandfather are the namesake for my business.
Okay.
So Lovering is their last name.
Okay.
So, and growing up I was like obsessed with their last name. I was like,
Yeah.
I wish I was a Lovering.
Yeah. It's such a good name and like how cute
It's
that like you
yeah.
get to carry that on with them. Like bring
Yeah.
them with you and
Yeah.
it's really cute.
When I was working with my friend who does logo design,
Hmm.
a friend of a friend who does logo design, we talked about like what could be a potential, like, because I was like, I don't just want like a quilt block as my design because like, you know, copyright stuff can come into play with that,
Hmm.
copyright infringement and things like that. And I was like, I
Yeah.
just don't want to have to keep changing it. I want something that's timeless. I want something that I can use for years and we can like maybe adjust it just a teeny bit year over year if we need to,
Sure.
but I don't want to have to keep changing everything, like my
Yeah.
branding and all that stuff. Like, because branding is a very important thing for me
Hmm.
as a business.
Yeah.
So, bleeding hearts are actually, so if you're not familiar with it, it's a plant and it's a flower. It is considered invasive in some places.
Ooh.
But it's like starts as like almost what a hosta looks like, and then it
Hmm.
grows outwards. And the little flowers on it are little hearts,
Hmm.
and they have this like little tail on them.
Hmm.
And that's part of our logo because my grandma loved her garden. She always had so many flowers, but the bleeding hearts, she always had tons of the bleeding hearts bush.
Yeah.
And we were actually, after my grandmother and my grandfather had passed, and we ended up having, we had to sell their house.
Hmm.
We were able to dig up some of those plants
Oh,
before
good.
we moved.
Yeah.
A lot of the garden at that point had since, gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Nobody's maintaining it. Yeah, it's like
right,
crazy how fast they like go out
yeah,
of tidiness, like if nobody's out there tending
exactly.
to
Yeah,
it.
like
But
my garden beds at our house right now look like a jungle.
mine too. They're disgusting.
I'm not a I'm not a gardener by any stretch of the
I try to
imagination.
pretend. I'm like, look, this one plant I grew.
No, I mean I'll go out there and I'll like lay bricks I'll go
Hmm.
out there and I'll like dump some dirt and rocks. I can do all that, no problem. I'm happy to do that. But just when it comes to pulling weeds,
Hmm.
I just hate it so
I
much. And I
know.
don't like worms. So that adds another layer that I'm just like, oh, mm-mm.
Can't do it.
Oh, no, thank
Yeah.
you. But yeah. So around 2013, when my grandma went
Hmm.
to the hospital, that was basically around the first time I tried to start quilting.
Okay.
I didn't then pick it back up until probably 2015, 2016. I moved from upstate New York to Boston,
Okay.
to live with my now husband. I kind of was like, I really would like to finish that quilt that I had tried to make for my grandma.
Hmm.
Well, when you're used to apparel sewing, I bet you know what I'm about to say too.
Big fat seam allowances.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh, and they were all half square triangles and I trimmed them all. Trimmed them all with the
Mm.
with the fat seam allowance, with the 5/8 seam allowance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I bet that
So
thing ended
needless
up
to
real
say, that
tiny.
is, yeah, yeah. It came out like this big.
Oops.
And all of that fabric was like 3 years old from Joanne, so that is not available anymore.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I just did the best that I could to finish it. Thankfully, at that time, I had met somebody who was a friend. She was the girlfriend of my one of my husband's coworkers,
Hmm.
and we clicked pretty well. And she convinced me to join a guild.
Oh,
And I was like, I don't even quilt. What do you mean I should join a guild? This is
yeah.
weird. So she convinced me, and I was like, okay, fine, whatever. So I joined the Cambridge Modern Quilt Guild, and I loved it. I
Oh,
loved
good.
every, it was so much fun.
Hmm.
Cambridge, Massachusetts, not to be confused with Cambridge, the UK, because I have done that before.
Yeah.
Um, and everybody in the group, we didn't have just ladies, we did have some guys.
Hmm.
And it was nice to have people who were of a similar mindset, who they just were very open and accepting
Yeah.
when I joined. And it didn't matter like if you were a more traditional quilter or not, you were still welcome to join.
Hmm.
And we met at Gather Here, which was really great. And I loved it. And so I just kind of from there dove headfirst into quilting. Apparel sewing, I wouldn't say I was a master at it,
Sure.
but I knew enough to get an A in the intro to apparel sewing class,
Ooh.
in college. And let's just say I was not always sober for that class. Sorry, mom.
Sorry, Mom.
I was
It's in the
21, so it was
past. It's
legal.
in the past.
It was legal. I was
Okay.
21,
No illegal activities happening here, guys.
just hungover from the night before.
It's all above board.
My teacher was amazing. She was like, "You did Thursday, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yeah,
She's
yeah,
like,
I
I
did."
see you, bitch.
She's great. I'm pretty sure she's still a professor there now.
That's so funny.
And I was just like, yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah,
You're
because
like
I didn't
this.
party before I went to state. Because, like,
Oh,
okay, no, I did, but it was like very different.
sure. College partying is so different.
Like you go from community college to
Hmm.
then like a
University.
4-year college.
Yeah. University partying, I should say, is on a
It was
different
very
level.
different. Not that I
Mhm.
didn't party at my husband's school, which was
Oh,
RPI. I did.
you did.
I had a lot of juice cocktails at those parties.
Guilty. You're
But yeah.
like, is this sewing gonna cure my hangover? Because
Well, it's funny because I'd show up with my own machine,
mm,
and I had a little Bernina 215. I still have it. So I remember like the first or second week of school, whenever like I had my first sewing lab, I was like, I called my mom and I was like, you're not gonna believe what we use.
mm,
Because at that point I had been spoiled
yeah,
by
right.
using my mom's Bernina at
Hmm.
home. And my grandma and my grandma had like a old Sears machine. It was old metal Sears machine, and my mom had an old Kenmore, and that's what I learned to sew on. So it's
Mm,
not that I wasn't familiar with like a mechanical machine.
sure.
It was just like I was like, you don't understand, Mom. We have to buy our own foot for the machine. It's 1 foot. They don't have any other feet for the machine because they were industrial machines
Yeah,
and they were old. Like they were like, I mean, I don't want to say they're old. They were probably from like the 70s or 80s. I don't know.
that's old
They
for
were
a
old
machine.
enough,
Yeah,
right? In 2011,
yeah,
it was old enough, and I was like, I can't use this.
yeah. You're like, what
This
is
is,
this?
and I was like, and it's all the way across campus, and I have to like go there whenever I want to sew one thing. Like I hate that. Like I'm very much like a homebody sewer,
Hmm.
sewist,
Yeah,
sewer, sewist.
sewer.
So she was like, oh, that sucks. Like, she was basically like, oh, cry me a river.
Yeah,
But she talked
wah,
to my
boo-hoo.
grandma, right? She talked to my grandma and my aunt, and my grandma and my aunt and her went in on my Bernina 215 for me.
Oh,
And they got it used from the shop that my aunt works at.
that's so nice.
So I still have it. I can't let go of it. But I
Yeah.
do currently I sew on a Bernina 570 QE,
Mm,
the Tula Pink edition, because that was when I was ready to upgrade. They had
hmm.
that one, and they had so many extras with it that it just made
Yeah,
the most financial sense to do that.
yeah,
And I love it. I love my
yeah.
Bernina.
I love
Um,
mine too. I, this little brother that's behind me, this is the machine I bought when I started quilting
yeah,
for $100. She still works like a gem. I still use her for my own personal stuff. And it
yeah,
travels like because me and my three quilty besties, like, we'll like go sew at each other's houses. And
yeah,
this last weekend, we did a sewing day. So I had to pack her up and take her with me. And it's just nice because it's smaller. But for the business, I sew on the CAFE edition of the 770 QE. And same thing, it
yeah.
came with like the embroidery module and all the extras,
Yes,
like all the
yes.
thread and all this. I was like,
I love
yeah,
it. I got a whole set of tools that match
yeah,
the the oils, the
the,
rainbow oil slick finish. It matches it, and
yeah.
I love that machine so much. I love it so much that like I refuse. Like I went to the Sew Brimfield retreat
Hmm.
in July, which was so much fun, by the way. Highly
Nice.
recommend.
Okay.
And everything's included in one price, like all your meals,
Oh,
your
nice.
lodging.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to
Highly
know.
recommend. And it's like it's good vibes there. I you go there and you feel like you've known everybody for years. Everybody's so nice and happy and like excited to be there.
Oh,
It's a lot
fun.
of fun. We had a
Okay.
lot of fun.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm at the point now where I'm just like, I love my Bernina so much. I don't like my 570. I don't want to use
Yeah.
anything else when I
Yeah.
piece. But I'm like, oh, but it's so heavy. But I was like, that's okay. I have a travel case. It'll be
Hmm.
fine.
Yeah. Like it's got her own suitcase. She can
Right.
come with me. It's fine. Yeah.
Right.
It is funny going from like the 770 to this little Bernina
Hmm.
thing. What is
Hmm.
the XM2701? Like, I don't even think they sell this one anymore, but it was
Is it
literally,
the like Project Runway edition? Because I've suggested that to a lot of first time sewists.
I honestly have no idea. I was just like found it on Amazon one day and I was like, I'm just
Yep.
gonna buy it. It's $100. And I love it.
It does what you need it to do.
Yeah.
And that's my thing is like a
Yeah.
lot of people, so there's some people who are very like, ew, Bernina, or like, ew, this brand or ew, that
Yeah.
brand. And I'm like, I don't care what you use.
Yeah. Just
You
use what you like.
use what you like, use what
Yeah.
you can afford. If you
Mm-hmm.
need a hand sew, that's fine too. Just don't yuck somebody's yum.
Mm-hmm.
And also like if you can do it, do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Well,
happy for you. You know,
yeah,
it's like I don't
honestly.
want to discredit people just because you don't use a top of the line machine. I don't care.
Yeah. Like it's a bougie choice and it's one you have to pay for. And like
Yeah.
that's okay if you can't. And like I say it all the time. I'm like, if you can get a machine that sews, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter
Yep.
what kind it is. It doesn't matter how expensive it was. Like
And I
it is,
often recommend to people who are first time sewists,
yeah.
if they want a machine that will run for
Hmm.
a long time, the Brothers are great machines for that.
They honestly,
And
this
you
is
can
like
get
seven
them
years
on
old.
Amazon,
Yeah.
you know. Amazon
This,
has a time and a place for purchases, for sure.
yeah, for sure.
Like I have to use it as a small business. Other people
Hmm.
have to use it for everyday items, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It has its time and place for sure. And like I'm grateful that I was able to get this machine. on Amazon. And yeah, like you said, they still brother machines are available there and they're
Hmm.
affordable and they do like this thing has been running for 7 years. I haven't had a single knock on wood. I haven't had a single issue with it. Like
Yeah.
I
I haven't
just
had any issues with
click.
my Bernina at this point, but I also, I try to make sure I maintain her as
Yeah.
well.
I think
And
that's
try to make sure that I can maintain her myself. That was an important
yeah.
thing when I got my machine.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think that's
she
the
does
case with
her,
no matter what machine. Yeah.
mhm.
Like
She does her once a year spa thing,
mhm.
which is really like once every 2 years.
Yeah.
Whoops. But other than that, like I change my needles pretty often because most of the time I break them when I make bags.
Oh yeah. Bag making is like people are like it's so easy. I'm like, is it? That's so cute.
I mean, I'm one of those people who it kind of
Yeah,
is.
it kind of is, but at the same time, there are parts of it that are tricky. And even
Yes.
if you make it a bunch of times, it's still like a tricky spot just because of how like
Yeah.
thick the seams get or like the corners or like where things join. Like there
Yeah.
it don't no matter what, like even if you've done it 1,000 times, those are just like fiddly spots. And so,
Yes.
but if
Yes.
you know how to work with it or you have like certain tools that can kind of make it easier.
Just gotta feel it out, man.
Yeah, but definitely breaking needles on bags is something that
Terrifying.
happens. It is terrifying, and I've done it multiple times, so it's fine. I totally get
Yeah,
that, but
I have too.
it's
Because I try to sew over a metal zipper like an idiot.
oops.
That's why they tell you not to sew over pins. So same
Exactly.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I did stop sewing over pins. I used to all the time. I'm like, it's not that
oh,
big of a
you
deal.
used
But yeah,
I
I'm
don't
like, if
use
I use
pins.
pins,
So
that's a
bad.
lucky day for
I
that
break all the
quilt.
quilting rules.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I don't care. I do what I want.
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. I'm like sometimes things need pin. Like if I'm have to
Yeah.
piece minky, I pin because that shit will slide right off the edge of the table if you
Yes.
don't.
Yeah.
And that's
Or
pretty much it.
like if I really need my seams to match,
Hmm.
I will try and pin, but if I didn't pin the rest of it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
unfortunately, the importance of pressing, I hate pressing.
I do too.
Excuse me, I hate pressing so much. And like the importance of pressing is actually kind of important, I guess. It
Yeah.
has been with B blocks, like sending B blocks to other people. I'm like, oh, I need to press this.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
I try not to press things if I don't have to.
Yeah. Like I'll finger
But
press it. It's fine. That's good
yep,
enough.
it's exactly what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's like my own stuff, I don't care. I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah,
Like if I need it to lay a certain way, or if it's gonna mess up like the joining of something, like I'll do what I need to do. But like
yeah,
if I can finger press something and just move on, then I do as
yep.
little as possible in that
I'm the
regard.
same way.
Because
Yep.
I just want to keep sewing it. Like I don't want to like
Yes.
just stop and go,
I just want to keep
pressing and just
going.
like press it and then I have to go back, sit back down and like start. I'm like, oh, can I just like
Exactly.
keep sewing?
Yep.
That's really my ADHD brain can't do the switchy back or forth. I'm like, ah, it's fine. It's fine. But
I do the same thing. So,
it's we all find shortcuts that like make us feel like we can keep moving forward on our own projects,
yeah.
which I think is great. And like you just have to do that, right? Like especially if you're working
There
on something that's like taking a longer time, like you got to find ways to keep it moving.
it's like I say to some people when it comes to like certain controversial things. It's like these are not hills I would like to die on.
No, exactly. It's like,
I'm just going to do what works for me. You do what works for you.
mhm,
As long, like when it comes to bees and bee groups, as long as I'm constructing a block, like that is like sound, right?
mhm,
In the sense of like it's not going to deteriorate as soon as they try to put it into their quilt.
right.
And like it's not heinous. We're good.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
has different skill sets and levels. Everybody learned. Like there's no one way that you learn how to quilt.
Right. Yeah.
I
It's all,
basically just was like, this is, I guess, how I quilt.
yeah. I guess this is how we sew. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like
Oh,
just such different approaches to how you get there. And like, I think that's the beautiful thing about quilting is we all
mhm.
have a different journey of like how we arrived here.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we all got here. So like, obviously there was nothing wrong with how you learned or how you
Right.
approached it. And like, we all start some of us have crafty homes where we
Hmm.
were witnessing it constantly and had a concept of like what it looks like to put something together. And some people didn't have that at all, but we
Right.
still all got to a point where we're making quilts and we're working with fabric and we're building beautiful things. And like the how
Yeah.
you got there doesn't really matter. Like,
Right.
I mean, it matters because it's important to you, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, well, you
Yeah.
did it the wrong way, so your quilt doesn't count. It's like, no,
Right.
I'm glad you
Exactly.
got here. Welcome. Like,
Yeah.
this is a fun place to
Welcome,
be.
welcome to the new addiction.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
welcome to spending all of your money on fabric.
Yeah. I know. It was so funny. I got like my friend Michelle, she's local and like she's like a friend of a friend and found out about me from one of those mutual friends. And she's like, I need you to long arm this quilt. I was like, great. And she's like, we're friends now. And I was like, okay, great. And I love her. And I actually just recently like long armed, she did a pattern test for Casey over at so and so
Hmm.
quilting quilt company. And we're all Idaho babes. And so it was like super fun. And
That's cute.
um
You guys all need matching potato stickers
I know, right? We should get some. But anyway, so
or
I just
tattoos.
I tattoos, I need a potato on my arm. No, I will never get a potato on my body. But anyway, so
I
then
don't know. I
she
kind of would, but
I mean, it's the gem state though, really. Like potatoes are like for
who
I don't know
doesn't
what
love?
for.
Okay,
I
well,
love
okay, to be,
potatoes.
I was gonna say there's
I
so
love
many ways you can
potatoes.
eat potatoes. So like, why wouldn't you want a potato on your?
Well, there's a lot of
I'm
reasons.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Like it's
Sorry, mom.
fine. No, it's good.
She
But
probably won't even watch this. I'm not even gonna lie.
I know. I'm like, Mom, don't watch my show. You're embarrassing. No, I'm just kidding.
No, my mom's not embarrassing. I just don't know that
No,
she'll watch
I'm
it.
embarrassing, is
Oh,
what. Like she's like, you're kind of embarrassing. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I forgot what I was saying. Oh, her so she my friend Michelle got her friend Danielle hooked into quilting and she brought me one of her quilts recently and Danielle was like, nobody told me that this was so addicting. And I was like, welcome to the shit show. Like you're stuck now. She was like, yeah, I'll see you soon. I'm like, okay.
it's so funny you say that. So like, I hope this person, I kind of hope she doesn't watch this. I love her to death, and I don't even know who she is. I don't know her name or anybody.
Oh.
Her and her sister were shopping at my booth in Fredericksburg.
Mm.
And if this is you, I'm so sorry, but I need to tell this story.
We don't know names,
Like
so
if
she'll
you're
never
watching
know.
this and it's you, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But I love you also. We should be friends. Um she and her sister were shopping and her sister got her into quilting and she had been hand piecing. She does not have a sewing machine
Oh
at
my
all.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
She doesn't have one yet. And I was like, well, the expo's a great place. She goes, no, like I have the one picked out I want. I'm gonna get one. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, honestly, I tell people all the time, like we were just saying, like
Hmm.
get a cheap brother off Amazon that will work for the time. And then eventually, if you're really into it like the rest of us are, you can invest in a better machine if you want to. But
Yeah.
I know plenty of people who still they sew on their little Amazon brothers or singers, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
Yeah.
So I gave that whole spiel. She ended up being one of my top spenders for the weekend. And she came back to the booth. That was she was, her and her sister were at the booth and they were like, this was our first booth today that we hit up. We're in trouble.
Oh.
They bought some things and
Yeah.
then they left to go see the other booths and stuff. She's like, we just hit one booth and we already have to make a run out to the car to drop our stuff off.
Oh my gosh.
So then they came back later in the day and
Yeah.
bought a little bit more. And I was just like, you guys are amazing. I love you so much, but holy crap.
That's incredible. You're
She doesn't
like,
even have a sewing machine. And she bought like two or three fat quarter bundles for me.
oh my
They
gosh.
were really cute bundles too.
Yeah, of
I was
course.
like talking through what she wants to do with them and stuff. And I was like, you'll be set after this. You won't have to buy any fabric for the rest of the year unless it's like a background or a backing fabric. She goes,
Yeah.
that's the plan. I'm
I'm
like,
like, okay, I'm
but
your
girl,
girl.
you might want a sewing machine first.
Yeah. Also go get a sewing machine because you're gonna
Yeah.
be taking
I
forever.
just thought that was awesome. I was like,
That's incredible.
I love this for you.
Yeah.
You're already in it and you don't even realize it.
Yeah. Hand sewing and like not to like bash hand sewing because like it's
It
incredible
just
and
takes
it's
forever for
yeah,
me.
like
I
I
don't know how
just
people hand sew so fast. I'm so slow.
I am too.
I'm
But I think
so
it's just
such a
practice,
slow.
right? Like if you sat and that's what you did, like you would get so fast, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I guess. I don't know. I can't say because I'm not like the last time I hand sewed something constructive that um wasn't like cross stitch or needlepoint. The last time I like actually like hand sewed something, well, no, that's not true because I did hand sew an ornament closed, like a poofy little ornament that I made.
mhm.
But I would probably say it have to be when I was a kid.
Wow.
I don't like to hand sew.
Yeah.
I do want to try EPP and I have everything I need to now try it because when I
Hmm.
went to Sew Brimfield
Hmm.
Awakening puts it
Yeah.
on. They are big into EPP.
Hmm.
And Kim had made this gorgeous pillow with
Mm.
the sparkle block that they had. So I bought the hexaform to try to make that pillow and some
Okay.
fabric to try to make it as well. So,
Yeah.
but then I got a needlepoint. So then I just was like, oh my God, I love needlepoint too now. So
Yeah. Ah, there's so many fun things to do. It's like,
there's so many. I love
yeah,
it. And that's the thing is like I'm a multi-crafter for sure.
me too.
Like I like to do wood shop stuff. I like to do like DIY,
Hmm.
all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. I'm a
Not
crocheter
enough.
too. So I've got a yarn addiction as well as a fabric addiction.
I have yarn, but I wouldn't say I'm a knitter or a crocheter.
I'm a hooker. That's what I like to say. It's
Yes, you
funny.
are.
Only
I
for
love it.
yarn. Only for yarn. Oh my God. Okay, so after you made that quilt for your grandma, well, the one that you were supposed to make for your grandma that turned out
Mhm.
to be a miniature because you cut all the fabric up. What was your next quilt that you made?
Um, Probably a baby quilt that I gave to somebody at a baby shower.
Mm.
I think it was I used to work for Express
Oh.
and I was a sales lead, so I was like key holder or whatever,
Hmm.
and not a manager, but like a key holder person. And my store manager was having a baby.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure I made one out of like flannel and minky.
Okay.
And I think I was still using like a 5/8 seam.
Oh my
So
God.
it came out so much smaller than I thought it would.
Bro.
But it was really cute. It
I'm
was like
sure.
they weren't um they they weren't gonna know what it was beforehand or
Hmm.
anything. They were just gonna once it
The
comes out,
baby.
that's when they figure it out type of
Yeah.
thing. So I tried to make it, at that time it was a lot harder to find gender neutral stuff in
Hmm.
2013, 2014, at least for me. Trying to
Yeah.
find gender neutral fabrics was
Yeah.
tough for a baby quilt. So I found some cute like little Noah's Ark fabric and like little
Mm.
animals, and then I did it with Minky. And I was like, this is great. And I hated sewing with Minky. I don't think there was even any batting in the middle. I think it was just like the
Fabric
front
and
and
ink.
back. And I
Oh my
pillowcased
gosh.
it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Because I didn't
right.
know
Yeah.
that for quilting, you actually like quilt the quilt top sandwich. Like
Yeah.
that, my brain was like,
You're like, no, you just sew it together around the edges and you flip it inside out and then you finish
yep,
that. Oh,
yep,
Lord bless you. Because yikes. With
yep,
Minky, especially.
yep.
Okay. That's a
It came out
choice.
like this wide
Oh my God.
and like
You're
maybe
like,
like that
it's
long. So
20
I don't
by
know.
15. So have fun
Yeah,
hanging this on the wall.
it was definitely big enough to use as like a car seat blanket or
Okay.
something like that.
Well, that's good.
Um, but yeah. So my first like big quilt that I sent out for quilting
Hmm.
was I made a wedding quilt for my brother and my sister-in-law, my oldest brother.
Mm.
Um, they had eloped on the beach in Massachusetts.
Oh,
Tell me.
rude.
They drove right past me.
You're like, who do you think you are?
Right, because I was living in Boston at the time.
Oh my gosh.
Um, so I thought I had months until the wedding.
Yeah.
And then they eloped. And I was like, shit.
Ah. Yeah.
So they had like a little reception thing back at her parents have a house with like a huge backyard.
Mm.
So we did like a bit like a like a little backyard reception thing. It was so cute. The food was so good. Oh,
Oh,
her parents make such good food. I mean, so does
nice.
everybody else who came, but it was so
Right.
good. There were hand pies.
Oh my God. Stop. I love pie
I know, I'm
so
so hungry
much.
right now too.
Me too.
So, that was like the biggest quilt I made at that time. It was supposed to be queen size. I was using a 1/4 inch at that time.
Okay. That's good.
Um, but I don't think it was actually like a queen size. I think it probably was ending up like a full or a twin. It
Mm,
was big enough that it could cover the top of a queen, but it wouldn't drape on the sides.
sure. Okay.
Um, and I their wedding colors, even though they eloped, were like, this is my brother for you. San Jose Sharks aqua. He was a
Okay.
big San Jose Sharks fan. And
More power to you.
orange.
It's like
The
the
quilt
Miami
actually came out.
Dolphins.
Yes, it was like Miami It did look like Miami Dolphins. But he
But
doesn't watch football, so I don't think it mattered to him, but
okay. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
that's okay. So the quilt was like a free pattern that was a wall hanging, and it was a
Mm,
Joann's pattern. And no offense, Joann's, but it wasn't the best written for
okay.
even a wall hanging quilt. But my quilting friend who forced me to join the guild,
Hmm.
she redid all, she was brilliant with math. Thank you, friend.
Yeah.
She was the reason why I got a lot of quilts done when I
Yeah.
did, because she helped me with a lot of the math and the cutting and like really
Oh, good.
figuring things out.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of like filling in the gaps for me
Yeah.
on some stuff.
Yeah.
And also like the guild people also filled in a lot of gaps for me too.
Yeah. For sure.
But it was like I did like ombre,
Okay.
teal, and orange with like a
Hmm.
little like white center, and I had the audacity. I had the audacity because they got eloped on a beach. I did all ocean themed and beach themed. And let me
Oh,
tell you, it was one of the most expensive quilts. Not for cost, probably for cost as well, but for time.
oh my
It
gosh.
took so much time trying
Really?
to find those fabrics.
Oh,
I have since become less particular about quilting.
yeah.
But that was the first quilt I like sent it. I actually sent it out to Missouri Star
Wow.
to get quilted because I didn't really know how, like, my friend she always had her quilt sent to somebody that she knew since she was a kid, to
Hmm.
who long armed. And I didn't have that, and I didn't want to send it to, like, I don't think that person took mail-ins. Like, I think she physically brought them home when she went to go see her parents
Oh,
to
okay.
have them quilted. So
Okay.
I didn't really get that there was like mail-in quilters that
Yeah.
you could send your quilt to and they'd finish it for you.
Yeah.
And I opted not to do the binding. I should have had them do the binding.
Yeah.
They did offer binding services. But
Shoot.
so I had Missouri Star Quilt Company quilt my first really big quilt, and then I
Wow.
gave it to them. I showed them the quilt top assembled
Hmm.
when we were at their little like reception thing, because that was like a month or two after they got married.
Okay.
And then the actual quilt I then regifted to them for Christmas
Yeah.
that
You're like,
year.
listen,
I was like,
listen.
guess what? It's done.
You gave me no time and you get it for Christmas.
They didn't ask for one either. I was just like, I'm
Sure.
just gonna make you a quilt.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was my first really big quilt.
Hmm.
And after
And
that, I don't know that I made one bigger since then
mm,
because I don't remember the size of that one.
well, it's okay.
I'm sure I have.
Yeah. I don't know. I make big quilts.
I do
I
too.
like, I've gotten okay with making smaller quilts. I'm like, not every quilt has to be 1,000 inches. Like,
Yeah. But when you're used to having usable quilts, it's
yeah,
really hard to break that. And that's kind of how I am
yeah,
growing up. It's not like we had a lot of extra space to have like decor. Like my
right,
mom didn't have like a plant on the bookshelf for decor. She had it because somebody gifted it to her,
right,
or like now she does because we're kind of like out of that survival mindset and stuff. But
right.
like I didn't have like decor stuff growing up.
Yeah,
It just, I mean, I'm sure we did, but like I didn't really notice it.
sure.
Like everything had a purpose and a function.
Yeah, it felt more
So,
practical.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to get out of that mindset too when you're a crafter and a quilter because you're like, but this tiny piece of fabric, I must save it. It has a
Uh-huh.
purpose.
Like, but it doesn't because it's just literally sitting in a drawer for 5 years and now nobody likes that fabric. So
Yep.
yeah, it's crazy. Like same thing. Like we had, some decor and stuff, and like my mom always kept our house really put together and like nice, but like just the idea of like having a quilt just for display. I'm like, but I want to use it.
Yeah.
Like if I'm
Yeah.
making it, I want to be able to, wrap in it. And now like I'm kind of shifting
Exactly.
because I do have a specific place to display quilts. And like
Hmm.
sometimes I'm like, I've got that quilt on the wall, but I'd really like it on the sofa instead. And like
Yes.
I'd really like to take it off the wall. So I'm like starting to try to figure out like things I can make that are more like the same kind of vibe and colors that I want for hanging on the wall or like
Yeah.
themed for the holidays and stuff so that I
Yeah.
can replace, like not have to hang them. I mean, I don't have to hang a quilt, but I did
Right.
put a curtain rod across the wall in my living room so that I could hang quilts. So I kind of have to.
Can we also talk about the pipeline from going, and maybe this is just a me pipeline, but going from a quilter who's like, I'm not going to have a quilt for every season to now like, I need two for every season and one for each bed in the home.
Yes, 100%. Yeah,
Hard left or hard
yeah.
right or whatever way this is.
Whatever direction that is, it's a hard turn and you're
I'm
just
like,
like
I
all of a sudden
literally,
driving on that road and you're like, how
right.
did I get here?
I'm like, I think 4th of July and what's the other one? 4th of July and Easter are like the two that I don't really do anything for in decor
Yeah,
either.
yeah,
So like if I don't have like actual decor for it, I'm not gonna make a quilt for it.
yeah.
But like for Christmas, everything's decorated in the
Hmm.
house, like or as much as I feel like decorating that year.
Yeah.
And so like I have the tree up and I have this and I have that,
Hmm.
so like I usually have more decor up than
Yeah.
just like a little banner.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. But don't worry, there is no shortage of Christmas quilts at my home because of the quilts I have completed downstairs on my quilt ladder.
Hmm.
4 of them are Christmas themed.
I love that for you. I
I don't
only
know
have
why.
two.
They just are.
It's okay. Christmas fabric is so like, well, not all of it. Some of it is so cute. I
I think
have,
you just get wrapped up in the season, and that's what it is for me. It's like I just love
yeah,
the Christmas season
me
so
too.
much. And
Me
some
too.
some years I'm not feeling it, and some years I am.
Hmm.
It's just all,
Regardless, I
happens.
want to be cozy.
Right.
So, and
And
like
one
this
of the
quilt,
quilts,
that's my Christmas quilt right there. One of them. That's my Christmas in the City quilt.
I love that. Oh, I love that line from
Me too.
AGF.
And it has
Still have a little bit of
like
it.
the minky on the back is the luxe, and so it's got the longer fibers, and it's their hide, so it has a color underneath, so it's like white on top, and then when
Ooh.
you move it, it's pink underneath. It's so freaking cute.
I was gonna get some of that. Um, I have a quilt that my aunt made me. My one aunt,
Hmm.
who's now a quilter. She became a quilter before I did, but it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm a quilter because she taught me. Like I just kind of wanted to start it on my own type of thing,
Yeah,
without really knowing like how good of a quilter she is.
yeah.
So she teaches classes and stuff at Gloversville Sewing Center in upstate New York. So
Oh wow.
yeah.
Okay.
But she so I made she made us a flannel quilt of like I think it's like the Robert Kaufman
Hmm.
flannels, and it's the Elizabeth Hartman's Penguin Party because we love
Oh,
penguins.
yeah, cute.
So she gave it to me and Pete for Christmas a couple of years ago now, and we use that we were using it well past Christmas. We were like snuggling it. I love it. It's a great
Yeah.
quilt.
Oh my
So,
gosh, how cute.
and it's all out of flannel, so it's so nice and cozy and
So
soft.
cozy.
Yeah.
Oh, how adorable.
Yeah.
Well, so when did you decide you wanted to start a fabric shop? Like what made you want to start your own business?
So I've always kind of wanted to run my own thing.
Hmm.
Um, I've been in retail since I was 17. So I worked for Marshalls, Michaels, Cracker Barrel,
Ooh.
the retail part, not
Yeah.
not the restaurant part. They wouldn't let me work in the restaurant part.
Uh,
I don't know why. I really wanted to be a server at one point, and then they
yeah.
were like, no. And I was like, fine, whatever.
Like, fine, I'll sell your
Um,
stupid Christmas ornaments. Whatever.
there's so much in
I
Cracker Barrel.
love
It's so
the
funny.
Cracker Barrel shop. I'm not gonna lie. Like anytime we've
Oh, a
gone there,
lot of people do.
I'm always like perusing. If we go with my grandma, she's like, "What do you want? Pick something out." I'm like, "Okay." I get so excited.
I remember being like, this is gonna be such an easy job. And I mean, it is for the most part, but like, holy cow, there's just so much packed in such a small space.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so I worked there, Michael's, I worked for Marshall's for most of my retail career.
Okay.
Um, I when I was in college, I went to the Buffalo Marshalls and worked for the Buffalo Marshalls. So I was working at
Hmm.
my home one in New York, and then I went to the Buffalo one, and then when I was in New York City for my internship for school, I
Hmm.
worked at the New York City flagship one in Chelsea, which
Wow.
was definitely an experience.
Oh yeah, I bet.
I will say, still wasn't as bad as the stories I have from my home Marshalls of
Really
customers. Yeah. It
interesting.
was it was because I think it was such a not a transient area, but like touristy, like
Hmm.
people in Chelsea coming, it wasn't
Yeah.
a lot of like, at least I didn't see a lot of regulars whenever I worked my shifts, but either way. But
Yeah.
so I did that and I worked for Express, like we talked about earlier.
Hmm.
So since I have been so heavily in the customer service, retail, customer facing
Hmm.
situation, um, I was like, you know, I don't know why I had this thought, but at some point I was just like, I don't want to work for someone else
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And at some point that kind of just like set in.
Hmm.
But really, when I first thought of having my own fabric shop was probably a couple years ago, like a couple years before I started my shop.
Okay.
So I had been working in corporate retail. So once I graduated, I did my internship and stuff. I worked for Marshalls and Express for a little while.
Hmm.
And then I worked for a tech startup in Boston and I did customer service. I learned a lot about app development and just like engineering and software and that kind of stuff. So that was really cool.
Hmm.
Um, and I went to a company that did wholesaling
Okay.
for bigger customers. So like Kohl's, Sears, Bon-Ton, Belk, like department stores essentially.
Yeah.
And so basically what they would do is they would put together a line and then the buyers would come in from these big department stores and say, I want that, 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 and that, change the colors on this and that, change the colors on that and that. And then they put their label on it. And
Okay.
I guess the term is called white labeling, but I've always called it private label
Okay.
because that's what it is for me
Okay.
because I mean, that's what we always called it. And this was for home decor.
Okay.
Um, so after doing that, you kind of like, you see a different side of things when you do wholesaling.
Yeah.
And I had always kind of been curious about how it all works, and that kind of answered a lot of questions for me. But I
Okay.
really enjoyed the product development part of it. I helped my boss do a lot of product development. She was
Okay.
definitely more of a numbers person, and she really liked my style and the ideas that I would bring up to her, different trends and things like that.
Hmm.
So it was a lot of fun, but it was also a lot of work.
Yeah.
Um, from there, the paths that I could take in corporate retail were be somebody's manager,
Hmm.
um, which I think at that time I was kind of deciding that I didn't really want to do.
Yeah.
And then, one of the other paths was become a buyer.
Mm.
And buyers are really heavy into numbers and spreadsheets and Excel. And even at that time, and this was probably 2017,
Hmm.
2018. Yeah, 2018. I was like, I'm not really cut out to be a buyer. I'm
Mm.
not I'm not tenacious. I would say I am about some things, but not when it comes to that stuff. Like I'm very like, okay, that's cool. You do you type of
Yeah.
thing. Like I'm not somebody who's going to fight tooth and nail because somebody's not going to give me a discount.
Right.
It is what it is. I move on, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't really feel like I was cut out to be a buyer, but part of my merchandising degree was to be a buyer. Like
Mm,
that's part of what you're taught. You're taught on how to do like a 6 month buying plan, how to do a
okay.
product assortment and things like that.
Okay.
So even though I learned some of that, it's not like I felt like I was the best at it. I
Hmm.
felt like I was like, I don't really need this. I won't need this someday because I'll just be a buyer and pick things out and pick out trends and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I was wrong. That's okay.
Yeah.
Um,
You gotta try stuff, right?
yeah, and I think we place so much importance on going to college and figuring out what you want to do at such a young age that once you
Yeah.
get into it, it's like, why did I want to do this?
Yeah. You're like, why
You
am I
know?
here? How did I get here?
Right.
Yeah.
I will say I would not give up my degree for anything, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't give up the experiences I had for anything because they all brought me to where I am now, and
Yeah.
I'm so much happier where I am now than I where I was.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
it I don't believe that everything happens for a reason, but I do.
Sure.
Do without what like certain
Yeah.
things obviously maybe
Yeah.
don't happen, like shouldn't be happening, but
Sure.
like certain things I feel like do come into our lives at certain times
Yeah.
for one reason or another, maybe to teach us a lesson or whatever. Read into
Yeah.
that however you feel fit.
Yeah. You're like, I'm not telling anybody anything else. This is just your personal
Just
perspective.
how I feel. Like I
Yeah.
feel like there were certain things that I went through
Hmm.
and I'm thinking back to them now and I'm like, huh, I now like I see what I did in that scenario and now I feel like I did something correct because of that scenario that happened later, like before this
Yeah.
or whatever. But anyway, so once I did the wholesaling, I had a lot of interpersonal issues with some of the things happening in that job and
Hmm.
office. And I didn't feel like I was really being utilized to my full potential, as well
Mm.
as I didn't feel like we were really treated with respect as being an assistant category manager.
Hmm.
So that led me to look for a job elsewhere in corporate retail, which led me to working for my most recent. I was a project, I'm just going to say a project manager. It's a project specialist. So like
Okay.
I only did project management for one facet of the business
Okay.
for my previous corporate retailer. And so while
Hmm.
I was there, I think you get to a point in your life where you start to realize what matters the most. And I think it happens at different times for people. And for me, it was definitely during and after COVID
Hmm.
and just seeing how like we were treated as employees for the place I used to work.
Hmm.
And I didn't like that. I didn't like how we were treated. It's not like they were like, you guys suck. Like they weren't like
Yeah.
that, but it was like, let's
Right.
keep business going.
You're like, or
Good
there's a
job.
pandemic.
Right. And we were
Yeah.
considered an essential business. So we were open the entire time.
Mm.
So it was really difficult for me moving from Boston to Virginia. I had friends in Boston before I moved there. One of my best
Hmm.
friends still lives up in Methuen, Massachusetts. The other one lives in Salem. Like I still have very good friends who live there now, so I'll go back
Yeah.
once in a while to visit them and stuff. But so I had those friends before I even moved to Boston to be with my husband, right?
Yeah.
And then him and I picked up our life and moved down to Virginia where we didn't know anybody.
Hmm.
We've never lived in the South. I've always lived in the Northeast. He's from California
Oh, okay.
and his family is from like Maryland, Delaware, Rochester
Okay.
area. So like we just didn't know what to expect moving down here. And we moved down here in 2019, 6 months before the pandemic hit,
Oh my gosh.
which as you know, if you move anywhere,
Hmm.
6 months is not enough time to finish like unpacking and getting settled and getting a lay of the land for actually knowing where you live. So
Yeah.
by the time the pandemic hit, I had been in my role at this new job for 6 months. I
Hmm.
only had my teammates as friends,
Yeah.
and they're all older with families. Like,
Yeah. You're like,
Like I had
awesome.
one other person on my team that was around the same age as me, and she was also married and had a dog. So like we related a lot.
Yeah.
But other than that, we didn't like I didn't have that support system anymore.
Yeah.
And it was so difficult. And I think between that to then the pandemic, my husband went through a lot of issues, health
Hmm.
issues during the pandemic. And then I also have my own health issues that I've kind of had to put to the wayside to make sure he was okay.
Hmm.
You know, um, it all kind of boiled up to like, I need a break. I need a
Yeah.
break from retail,
Yeah.
from corporate retail specifically. I need a
Yeah.
break from the 9 to 5. I am a shell of a human.
Hmm.
And it was like something has to give.
Yeah.
So I had started my shop in late 2021. So like October of 2021, I filed for my
Okay.
business license. I was like, let's just see what happens. Right.
Yeah.
I was still working my full-time job at that
Okay.
point at corporate retailer as a project specialist. And
Hmm.
I just started to show up more on Instagram and try to do more and quilt more. And, it was a lot of nights and weekends of doing
Hmm.
things. And it was a lot of figuring things out because there's no manual to like, here's how to run a fabric business, right? Like
Right.
you kind of, and when you've been in retail, you kind of understand here's how you run a shop. You get
Hmm.
things from someone, your wholesaler, your vendor, whoever, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you hand make things and
Hmm.
you are your own vendor, and then you sell them at another cost. And
Hmm.
the money that you make in between what you buy it for and what you sell it for, that's your margin.
Hmm.
There are things that have to come out of your margin. So like I understood all of these basic business principles, right?
Yeah.
I also consulted my brother who has a master's in business administration. I was like, hey, I have all these questions. And he recommended some books for me to check out and stuff.
Nice.
So it was a lot of relying on my network
Hmm.
and basically just confidence of telling myself, like, I can do this. It's gonna be okay,
Yeah.
But at the time, I still had my full-time job.
Sure.
So I couldn't really devote as much time to the business that I wanted to. So I kind of just ran it on the side and it was just fabric at that point. Strictly just fabric, here's some bundles.
Hmm.
Here's some fabric that I got.
Yeah.
It's kind of like throwing shit at a wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So shortly after that, my friend and I went to Cold Stone Creamery, like, I don't know, one random Saturday or something. We were out thrifting and
Hmm.
hanging out. And
Hmm.
she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, no, I'm not." I just lost it. I was like, "No, no, I'm not." It's just everything's just ugly
Hmm.
cry. And
Yeah.
Cold Stone. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make you." And I was like, "It's okay. Hey, it needed to happen." And
Yeah.
we
You're
talk
like,
about it all the time. It's like, if it wasn't for you making me ugly crying Cold Stone,
right.
that was kind of when I was like, I need a fucking break.
Yeah.
I need a break.
Yeah.
So, I talked with my husband. My husband is endlessly supportive. He's really great. I I mean, we've been together over 14 years at this point,
Hmm.
married for 6 of them, and I just would not choose to do life with anybody but him. He's so awesome. He drives me nuts sometimes, as they all do, but he's the best. And I talked with him and I was like, I think I need to take a mental health break.
Hmm.
Like, I just feel like I was like, I feel like I'm slowly losing myself. And he's like, I think that happened a long time ago.
Hmm.
And my friend and him, they were all right. They were
Yeah.
right. I mean, like, I had just felt like I lost myself completely. It was
Yeah.
to the point where, like I had been in therapy at that point,
Hmm.
and it was like, it gets to a certain point where you can only talk about something so much in
Right.
therapy. For somebody like me who doesn't have extreme PTSD or anything like that,
Sure.
anything
Sure.
to the like extreme or extremities or whatever like that, therapy can only help to a certain point. At some point, it was like, I can't talk about this thing anymore. I need something to help because there is something going on in my brain and in my body that's telling me that I just am not happy. I'm
Hmm.
sad and it's not like it was like, I'm not happy with my marriage or I'm not happy with this or I'm not happy with that. It wasn't any one particular thing. It
Yeah.
was like, I've lost the joy of living.
Yeah.
And not like truly, like I wasn't on like suicide watch or anything.
Yeah.
So,
Sure. But it's like when you feel like all the color is like starting to drain out of
yes,
your life and you're just like,
yes.
I mean, I'm here
I
and I'm,
used to, right. It's like I used to feel like this vibrant person, and I just
mhm.
no longer felt like that. I just felt like I was going through the motions every single day.
Yeah.
And for me, that was not an okay way for me to live my life. And
Yeah.
I recognize the fact that, like, I tell people all the time, like, look, I am extremely privileged. My husband graduated school with no debt from
Mm,
college. He was very lucky that his parents were able to afford to pay for his college. I had
yeah.
college debt. We took care of that after we got married, so like I recognize that and I recognize my privilege. And it's these kinds of things are not something that everybody can attain. And I completely
Right.
recognize that. But for
Sure.
me, it was time for me to take a break and just worry about myself.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it's like growing up, you think, oh, once you're married, you're happily married and everything's all like rosy colored and everything's
Yeah.
great. Like you just live your life, maybe
Yeah.
have some kids for some people and you just kind of live your life and enjoy, and it's like, it's almost like you take the rose colored glasses off and you're like, oh shit, like being an
Yeah.
adult, is exhausting
Yeah.
so much.
It is. Yeah.
And so yeah, it just got to that point and like I liked my job. I
Hmm.
liked I genuinely liked doing the project management stuff. It
Yeah.
was very interesting to me. I like the fact that like there's a name for just like making sure people do what they're supposed to freaking do,
Right. Yeah.
which is essentially what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Uh, I really liked that job. I didn't mind it. But I didn't have a lot of days off. I didn't have a lot
Mm.
of PTO days.
Yeah.
Again, during the pandemic, it was just like you have to keep working.
Business
And
as
like we worked
usual.
at least,
Okay.
for quite some time. So that was at least nice. But it just got to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I will never forget what somebody said to me when I told them I was leaving because we were back in office at this point.
Hmm.
So I started my business in October of 2021. I didn't launch my site until December 2021.
Okay.
From then until 2022,
Hmm.
yes, because I think it's 2 years that I've been gone. From then until July of 2022, I worked while also doing the business on the side. And it's not like my business like immediately skyrocketed or took off or anything like that. I'm
Right.
still figuring it out. Like I'm still trying to get visibility and that kind of thing to my business.
Hmm.
Um, but it I just will never forget what somebody said to me. And she was a higher up in our company,
Hmm.
at the company I worked at. She came over to my desk and she's somebody I worked with pretty regularly for projects. And my boss was standing there and she's like, "Oh, did you hear Lisa's leaving?" And she's like, "Oh, you are? Where are you going? Tell me.
Mm.
Are you tell me?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna take some time for myself and focus on business. And, I have family I want to visit that I haven't, because of the pandemic and everything. It's not I
Yeah.
like the first time I saw my mom since the pandemic was like March of 2021. It was hard. It was
Yeah.
really hard. Not to mention being down here, you have to travel almost a full day to get up to upstate New York to see my family.
Yeah.
Like, oh, where are you going? Or, can you tell me? And I was like, "Oh, I'm not going anywhere, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna focus on my business." And
Hmm.
she's like, "Ooh, a lady of leisure. I love that." And I was like, "Nope, I'm a full-fledged business. I have a business license. I pay
Yeah.
taxes in Virginia as a business." She's like, "Yeah, but I wish I could do that. Like, hang out all day and run my business from home." And I'm like,
Okay.
"Oh, thanks for that."
Yeah.
I didn't even tell her what my business was at that point because it didn't matter.
Right.
So there's there's always a lot of guilt.
Hmm.
And good thing I had therapy today so I could talk about this.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
there's a lot of guilt with like, I run a business, so I work from home. But at the same time, it's like it doesn't always feel like working.
Mm,
And there's a lot of guilt with that because my partner works from 9 to 5 or, whatever his hours
yeah.
are. And
Yeah.
it's granted, he works from home too. He's a software engineer, so he's remote.
Oh,
So
nice.
he can do that. But it's just there's a lot of guilt in that. And I
Mhm.
think one of the things that I don't remember to take away a lot is that I shouldn't feel guilty. I am a business. But when somebody says something like that to you, it sticks with you.
Mhm.
And I've always used those kinds of things as fuel. Someone
Yeah.
had told me early on in my life that you're not going to graduate with a fashion degree. You're not going to go to fashion school. Well, bitch, I did it.
Yeah. You're like, watch me.
Yeah. So like I'm that kind of person that uses that as fuel internally, right?
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
I probably don't talk about it enough, but um some of that is what fuels me to an extent. Because if
Sure.
somebody's like, "Oh, you won't do this thing," and I'm like, "I don't want to do it, so I'm not
Yeah.
going to."
Right.
This is a different thing, right? But
Yeah. For sure.
I just will never forget that moment.
Yeah.
And that told me the fact that it was someone who was on like our Champions of Women committee who is saying these things
Right.
to somebody who is definitely making less money than you and is, has admitted to you that mental health is a thing that she is struggling with and she is taking a break for, and you say that,
Hmm. Like,
just
okay.
told me like I was doing the right thing for sure.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
had a lot of my coworkers when they found out I like to Irish exit.
Mm.
I love, I love the reactions I get when I Irish exit a job.
You're like,
Why?
where'd she go?
I like to leave people wondering. Because
That's,
then you also know who gives a shit and who doesn't.
yeah.
These people, because there's a lot of fakeness with it.
Hmm. Yeah, for
Wherever
sure.
you go in corporate America, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And I like to know who's like, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah. Because I didn't
I
want
like to
to.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
just I'll just be sitting at my desk and I'm like, yeah, sorry I didn't tell you.
Yeah. You're
I
like,
love
it's
it.
maybe a little manipulative, but who cares? It's harmless, right?
Not even because it's just like I take note of like I would tell certain people who I was close with or I worked with
Sure.
every single day because if it interrupted like the business operations, I didn't want to be blamed for that. So I
Right.
was like, hey,
Yeah.
so I put in my 2 weeks. What? You know,
Yeah.
but like I like to keep my cards close to my chest when it comes to corporate America because 2 weeks later, they have your replacement. Doesn't matter if
Yeah.
you drop dead or left.
Yeah. For
That's all it
sure.
is. And it
Yeah.
sucks. It sucks. It really sucks, but
It does suck.
that's what it is. But
It's a
yeah,
hard
so like
environment to be in.
it is. It's difficult and it can be soul sucking aren't if you aren't surrounded by good people. Like I
Hmm.
was surrounded by really good coworkers. So thankfully, like the soul sucking had happened a little bit before and it was more so like from the company and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just their policies and procedures and things like that. I was just like, I'm so over this,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it sucks, but part of the reason I chose to do fabric rather
Hmm.
than making and selling quilts is because I know that people who buy quilts don't always value them the way that they should be valued.
Hmm.
We know it's a struggle for handmade artisans as it is. And
Yeah.
so I was like, fabric is one way that I can have all the new collections without having to keep them forever.
Hmm.
And it actually has helped me really think about and decide what I really love from
Yeah.
those new collections that are coming out. Like, I saved myself a Meadow Star fat quarter bundle,
Hmm.
and I'm glad that I did because I really want to make there's this one quilt in my head that keeps popping back up, and I want to make it, and so I'm gonna eventually make that with that one, and I just know
Yeah.
it's going to be such a nice cozy little quilt. But for the most part, like there's other stuff that I'm just like, I like it. I love the collection. I like a lot of things though. Like I
Hmm.
just like I love the sugar cone collection, but I just don't know what to make with it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So there's different things like that when you own the fabric for the business that you're just like, oh, I wish I had more of this fabric, or oh, I wish this didn't sell so quickly so I could have saved a little bit for myself because I really have this idea now. But
Yeah.
like, let's be realistic. A lot of the time, as consumers, when we buy our fabric, it we don't get to using it right away. A lot
Right.
of the time. Not
Yeah.
all the time, because there definitely have been plenty of times where I buy my fabric and then it's for something I'm currently doing, right?
Yeah.
Especially B blocks. But
Yeah.
so it just has helped, it's really helped me focus on what I want to keep too.
Yeah.
What I want to keep, what I don't want to keep. If I am I actually going to make a quilt out of this?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I was gonna ask, like, yeah, do you think like having, because you have access to it all like right in front of your face, like does that help you like decide, like, I actually don't feel like, oh, what am I trying to say?
like you don't feel pressure to
You
get
don't
all the
feel
new,
pressured to like buy it because, like, well, if I don't buy it now, I'm not gonna get it. And
right?
even if you, like you said, you like sugar cone and it is so cute, but like if you don't know what to make with it, like, are you really gonna
Yeah,
sit there and buy a bunch of it just to hold on to it when you
right.
are staring at it on a daily basis and it's still nothing's
Yeah.
coming to mind? Like,
So that's the other thing too. It's really hard for me. And again, this is probably me personally, but I can get sick of things if I'm staring at them for too long. And sometimes that happens with fabric and sometimes it
mhm,
doesn't. It just depends on the fabrics, like
yeah,
um I can look at um what's the line? The Warp and Weft Moon Glow. I could
mhm,
look at that all day long. I have a quilt of it on my bed. I have a quilt in progress of it, and I have more of that fabric to make other quilts later
yeah,
because I love that line so much. But
it's so pretty.
like we were kind of talking about Starry earlier before we started the interview, and
Hmm.
like I love Starry too, but like it gets to a point where I see it so much that I'm just kind of like, oh, I'm over
Yeah,
it. And like, it's not that it's bad. It's just
right.
not, I don't want to see it anymore. I'm sick of looking at it.
Yeah,
The same thing like when you put a quilt in timeout because you're sick of looking at it.
yeah,
It's that kind of
100%.
thing.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah,
it's definitely helped me not just figure out my own personal style, but also kind of figure out like what I want to keep for the long haul and
yeah,
what I'm like, get it off my shelf immediately.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Like when it came to like ordering for Juicy and Teddy and the Bears, that just
Hmm.
came out. I
Yeah.
knew that Teddy and the Bears was not going to sell super well for me as a full collection, just
Mm.
based off of past fabrics that I have that maybe were a little bit similar.
Hmm.
So I only got the bear heads. And I didn't even get all the colors of the bear heads. I got like three of the four colors. I got the canvas, and then I got a
Hmm.
couple of the full bears
Hmm.
for my fussy cut friends.
Yeah.
Um, but I just knew it wasn't going to sell that well for me. So I
Yeah.
just didn't buy the whole collection because it's very
Yeah.
expensive. Whereas like Juicy will sell relatively well for me time over time.
Yeah.
It will be a collection that continues to sell pretty well. And I also like to do, if I bring in a whole collection, I'll do shop cut half yard bundles.
Mm.
So I will cut the whole collection into a half yard bundle and fold it up. And I only do so many of those because it's a lot of work on my
Yeah.
part. So,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
knew I would want
Absolutely.
to do quilt kits with Juicy too. So,
Hmm. That's a good one. It's a
yeah,
really good one.
yeah.
Yeah.
But again,
That's,
I'm kind of like looking at it and I'm like, okay, do I want to quilt with this or do I want bags with it? So like I'm probably gonna make some bags with it. And I
hmm,
do have one quilt kit, the Modern Lee Morgan
hmm,
Spectra quilt.
hmm.
I'll probably make that one for myself
Okay.
because I really, really love that one.
Yeah.
And I did a quilt kit for that. But
Okay.
yeah, it definitely helps you. I mean, for me,
Yeah.
it helps me narrow down what I want to keep and what I don't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Probably helps like ease that kind of scarcity mindset we can tend to get with like especially with collections that we know like there's not going to be a ton of it, and once
Mhm.
it's gone kind of thing. And
Yeah.
that can be hard on the consumer side of things. But I think, yeah, as a
Yeah, it
when you're
is.
a shop and you have access to it, you're like, okay, it's not like not that. It kind of
Right.
loses sparkle in that sense. Not that it's like bad, that it becomes bad or that you don't like it anymore, but it's not as like you don't feel that pressure, which
But in the same way in fashion, everything is cyclical.
yeah,
Like the whole resurgence of like retro looking fabric, so like the flower power daisies and that kind of stuff,
yeah,
it's all cyclical.
yeah, yeah,
And, I think I'm a little cynical in this in some senses of like nothing is forever,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
But also like not
But
cynical in the sense of
yeah,
like love is forever,
yeah,
right?
right.
Like it comes and goes, right? But
Sure.
when it comes to fabrics,
Hmm.
in the craft world and also in the fashion consumer world, home decor, like actual apparel fashion and other things like that that use textiles and fabrics, like trends change.
Yeah,
But in the craft world, trends, the faster changing trends are going to be, those are the hardest to keep up with because we know our crafts and hand projects take a long time.
yeah.
But everything is cyclical.
Hmm.
So like we're seeing a resurgence of some of the older Ruby Star collections and prints because we as consumers asked for that.
Yeah,
And I don't think it'll be the last time we see them, but
yeah,
I think it's, you know, um, a good indicator of like trends will come and go.
yeah, for sure. And kind of having that, like, you have a unique perspective from coming from fashion school and coming from that
Mhm.
merchandising, like, kind of background of things where you can put that to use of like understanding the trends and the ebbs and flows of
Yeah.
design and marketing and like what that kind of looks like in the long run.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like
But
it just
that doesn't mean I always get it right either.
right. No, you can't know
You know,
everything.
I like stocked up on art gallery fabric and I love art gallery fabric.
Me
I use it all
too.
the time,
Me
but
too.
it's not everybody's cup of tea. And I learned
Hmm.
that very quickly.
Mm,
Um, and Ruby Star has been my consistent seller. So I
yeah.
tend to carry more Ruby Star than I do art gallery. I do carry some of the Susie Quilt stuff from art gallery because it's Susie Quilts and she's
Yeah.
so well known that that's kind of helpful for me. But
Hmm.
I have, I can do less marketing for it.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
but um yeah, everything's cyclical and eventually trends will come and go the same way that they did when our parents were young and our parents'
Mhm.
parents. And I mean, think about it this way, you don't see a lot of people wearing saddle shoes anymore, but
Yeah.
I've always wanted a pair and like I
Right.
would I would wear them all the time if I got a pair when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I never got a pair because my feet are so big. So
Yeah, it's just interesting, like, and it's funny too, because like my stepsons are like, well, the youngest one, he really cares about fashion and like, but like the things that he brought Janko jeans home one time, and I was like, oh my God. He was like,
no,
what? I'm like,
don't do it.
that was like, Janko was like the thing when I was in high school. He's like, really? I'm like,
Yeah.
I had a pair of Janko jeans. Like, it was like everything to me to have those jeans. And he's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I was just like, the things he wears. I'm like, yeah, yeah. Welcome to the
I
show, like the club, like that's a 90s thing. He's like, no, I'm like, yeah. He's like, it's 70s. I'm like, the 90s stole it from the 70s, revamped it, and now the 2020s are stealing it and revamping it again, but it's from the
I
90s. And he's like, no. I'm like, yeah, bro.
I don't want some of these 90s trends to come back. Like they just need to stay in the
I
90s.
know some of them I'm just like, absolutely not. You need to
Like
knock it off
please
this
no.
moment. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I'm
I
like,
did my time.
really, I know. I'm like, we all embarrassed ourselves enough. We just don't need to go there again. Like, come on,
Mm.
do something new.
Have you heard that TikTok sound that's like wah, wah, wah?
Yeah.
That's how I feel when I look
Yeah.
through some of my old pictures. And I went to high school in the 2000s, like early
Yeah.
2000s,
Me
2000,
too.
class of '08.
Oh, yeah, I'm all for. So like I'm but same
Yeah.
thing. It's like the early 2000s, these like the frosted lips and the like
Oh,
tube tops and the like one size fits all shirts that were like so stretchy and they because they were all like bunched up and then
yes.
like
And the
those and the
honeycomb
low cut
shirts.
jeans and I'm just like,
I'm like, make it stop, please.
yeah, it's not
I
cute.
don't
It's
like it.
fine.
I don't like it.
But yeah,
I don't want it.
no.
No.
That's not good. But I mean, for fabric, it's mostly okay. Like,
Yeah, some of the stuff that's coming out now, so I should say as a quilter myself, like my personal quilting style is
yeah.
probably traditional meets modern in the
Hmm.
sense of I'm fine with doing the same traditional block over and over and over in different fabrics.
Yeah.
Like I like doing that.
Yeah.
I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. They get bored with it. Totally fine, but I love to
Sure.
chain piece.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't want to, and sometimes I want to do like something different, which
Hmm.
is kind of where doing B groups and B blocks have come in. It's
Mm.
giving me a little bit of a taste of like doing a whole quilt and paper piecing without actually having to do whole quilt and paper piecing, or
Sure.
like doing some different techniques or things. So that's been
Yeah.
interesting.
That's fun. Yeah, because you can just try a little bit. And then if you
Yeah,
like it, it's something you can incorporate. But if it's just like, okay, cool, I did that, then you
yeah,
end up with a cool quilt,
right. I
but
can
you
do
didn't.
one thing and be
Yeah.
like, oh, that was fun to make, but I never want to make that block again.
Yeah.
Moving on, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure.
So that is
Yeah.
nice. Although I haven't really had too many of those in my B group yet, where it's like I never want to make this block again. It's like I can make this block again, but
Yeah.
I'm not like enamored with it, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure. Yeah.
So because I feel like I am a traditional and modern quilter at the same time,
Hmm.
I'm obviously lean more modern because my fabric choices dictate a lot of that. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of the patterns that I like are like from antique quilts. And for me, like if a quilt is usable and it's an antique quilt and it's like a two-color quilt, love
Hmm.
that. Love it. I love a
Yeah.
good two-color quilt. How many of those do I have in my house right now?
Zero.
I
Yeah.
can't find them. I can't find the good antique quilts, you know, and a lot of people like cut them up and make them into like coats and stuff. And I think that's awesome because it's giving it new life, giving it new
Hmm.
purpose, you
Hmm.
know. And there's, as we know, there's plenty of textiles in the world to be doing that. So I have no problem with it. But, you know, I lost out on a couple of antique quilts that I'm now going to attempt to remake myself because they
Mm.
were like auctions.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see how those come out because I don't necessarily work in solids a lot.
Yeah.
I kind of like add solids in if I need a blender, but
Hmm.
even then I like my brain is like it needs to be all solids or it needs to be all prints.
Oh, yeah.
Like even with
Yeah.
like a background fabric, like even if I have like a cream background fabric,
Hmm.
it's like it needs to be solid like the rest of your fabrics or it needs to be print like the rest of your fabrics. Like
Yeah.
it's really hard for my brain to get past that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I will be interested to see where my quilting journey continues to take me, but I know that there's at least two quilts that I'll make that are, you know, they're going to be kind of more of that antique look, or maybe even a
Sure.
little more. Like I was looking at one last night, a kit last night for like you embroider these squares on like velveteen, and then
Mm.
you like basically sash all the squares, and
Hmm.
like each one is like a little Christmas, a freaking Christmas quilt. But I was like, but how cute would that be?
Yeah.
Or like a cute little like cottage core. Like I
Hmm.
love the cottage core look. I'm definitely
Yeah.
not as cottage core as other people, but I think for me, I really like that traditional look and because it to me it feels like home.
Yeah.
Like when you walk into your grandmother's house
Hmm.
and you just feel immediately at home.
Hmm.
That's kind of what it is for me, I think. It's more
Yeah.
of like that feeling. And I
Hmm.
want, and as I'm like coming into, because we're going to be moving, like I kind
Hmm.
of talked to you a little bit about that. We're going to be moving into our hopefully forever home.
Yeah.
Um, and so now that we're going to be in a space that I'm planning to be in for forever, after I said nothing is forever.
Right. For a long, long time at least.
Yeah. now that we're moving into a home, I want those creature comforts for my
Mhm.
guests or my friends or my family, anybody who comes to my house. I want them to feel like they can sit on my couch and take the quilt off the back of the couch
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
snuggle in it.
Yeah.
I want them to feel at home and comfortable in my home,
Yeah.
and kind of like bringing those elements in also have a traditional feel.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll see if I do that Christmas one because it's all hand embroidery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm like, oh, I would love a
I
hand
should
project,
probably,
but
yeah, I do that all the time, but I should probably finish a hand project first.
yeah, probably. Who knows? Oh man. Well, this has been so good, and I just love getting to learn more about you. Like we met at QuiltCon this year, and
Yeah.
it has come up in a lot of my episodes, but it's funny because it's like that's how I got exposed and like met so many
Hmm.
people and like got introduced to so many new people. And so I'm not gonna ever shut up about it because it was great. And
Yeah.
I was like so happy. We just like randomly ended up going to dinner together with like
Yes.
Emily and her sister. And
Like we had dinner together at that food hall, and then you're
yeah,
like, "Do you want to ride back to the hotel?" I was like, "Yes, please.
you're like, please take me with you.
Please take me.
Yeah.
I'll get into your stranger's car. Why not?"
It was like the tiniest little stupid electric car in the world. I'm like, I mean, good luck getting in, but
I
three
was like, "It's fine. I'll just."
three adult humans in the back seat.
We made it
Yeah,
work. We
we
made it
did.
work.
And it was a short drive, so it's not like we were
Yeah. The food
driving it.
hall was really good.
Yeah, so I'm just like so glad we got to meet. And it was just random
Yeah.
because Erin or yeah, Emily was just like, Lisa. And I'm like, who the fuck is Lisa? She's like, that's Lisa. And I'm like, oh, like it was
Well,
just so funny.
I feel like that happens a lot. I was talking to people and chatting, and like I got
Mhm.
to talk with Orlando a little bit more. I
Yeah,
love Orlando. He cracks me up.
I know.
I love his posts. But
I know. Mm,
um so like I got to talk to different people, and like
yeah,
I was just like, what's going on? Who's going where? I'm hungry. Anybody else? Like,
yeah.
because I was just kind of I'm usually a planner. Like I
Hmm.
usually like to plan things.
Me too.
And with QuiltCon in Atlanta, when I went by myself,
Mm.
I went there alone,
Hmm.
but I I left with so many friends.
Yeah,
And I hate how cliche that sounds, but it's so true.
it
Like
is.
I really felt like I met so many good people,
Yeah,
and like I got to meet people that I had been maybe chatting with a little bit here and there, and they got to see like, oh my God, she's a real person. Like she's not just a shop, which is also helpful for me,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, I just got to meet so many great people, and I got to know
Mhm.
their personalities in person a little bit more because
Mhm.
as we know, like not everything we put on social media is our true selves. Like it's I for me, it's not necessarily just a highlight reel. Like I have to use it as a business tool, right?
Yeah,
Like
for
I
sure.
don't
Yeah.
I don't do a lot on my personal account just because it's like it's kind of like at this point for me and my family and my friends.
Yeah.
Um, so like truly the one for the shop, I could be shit posting a lot more. So you guys are very lucky you only see what I post.
This is my professional self, okay? You're welcome. Yeah.
Professional.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely more professional in like an office setting for sure, but like, you know, there's just things that like I don't know. I'm like, this isn't really relevant to my business, so I'm not going to share it,
Yeah.
or it's not
Yeah.
relevant to who I am as a person, which is
Right.
indicative of my business, so I'm not going to share it, that type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But it's true like once you get to meet somebody in person, you kind of put a name and face
Hmm.
to that Instagram name, like
Hmm.
especially because it's the Instagram quilt community is huge, like
Huge.
huge. And like I love that the next generation of quilters is
Hmm.
starting to use TikTok more. I
Yeah.
love it. Don't
Yeah.
ask me to get on TikTok though, because maybe one day I will, but for now I have enough accounts I need to handle. So
Right. I know. It's like, oh, right.
maybe
That
one
thing.
day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't like being on like I don't like being on video a lot. I know that's
Mm.
crazy to think after we're doing this whole thing, but I'm just I don't know,
Sure. It's a
I
whole
just don't
different
like it.
thing. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
whole different thing. Yeah. For
And I
sure.
don't mind my picture being taken, but it's more of like being on video. It's just so weird to I don't know, it's weird to
Yeah.
me, but
Yeah.
um so for me making reels is not fun. I don't enjoy it
Yeah.
at all. But
Yeah.
I left QuiltCon in Atlanta with so many more friends, and part of that was because of the sticker swap that
Hmm.
Emily and Alicia hosted, and it was so great to like meet those people. And because I met those people was part of the reason I actually one of the one night in Atlanta, I had a night class. Was
Hmm.
coming back from night class, and I just remember the one hotel in Atlanta was like the hotel that everybody was pretty much staying at, was the Marquis, I think.
Hmm.
I just remember coming down because it's a multi-level like lobby, coming
Hmm.
down the one stairs and just being like, "Oh my God, there's so many people at the bar and I'm so hungry." And the poor people at the restaurant at the bar were short-staffed
Oh
because
my
they didn't
gosh.
realize like how big of an event it was going to be.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, I'm never going to get food.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
it was like
gosh.
9 o'clock. I was so hungry. And
Yeah.
Mickey, somebody I had met at the sticker swap, she
Hmm.
flagged me down. She's like, "Hey, are you looking for the long arm league meetup?" And I was like, "No, but do you guys have food?" She's like, "You look a little lost." I was like, "I'm so hungry, Mickey." And she's like, "Oh, we're getting pizza." I was like, "I know the place to get it from."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh
I
my
had
gosh.
previously went to Atlanta for work, so I knew a couple
Okay.
places in the area that were good, and I was like, "Get it from here. You won't regret it." And it
Yeah.
was so long arm league fed me that night, thanks to
Nice.
Mickey.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
But
it
yeah,
is so nice to like just in a sea of people, see people you know and get introduced to new people and like just build your community even more. Cause
yeah,
like getting outside of Instagram and meeting these people in person is like so cool. And it's so fun to see because it's like, yeah, sometimes it's like maybe your
yeah,
personalities jive on Instagram and that's fine, but like maybe in person they don't, or maybe in person they it's like even better. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's just interesting to see all that kind of like shake out
Yeah.
and
And I would say, so if you're more of a like I'm definitely an extroverted introvert. I'm more extrovert around people I'm comfortable with.
yeah, me too.
Um, it takes a little bit to get me to like be a little more comfortable. That being said, it's not that I don't talk to strangers, it's I don't seek out conversations with strangers, right? Like I
Hmm.
kind of just I'm one of those people who just I do my business and I go home type of thing.
Hmm.
So for me, going to QuiltCon alone in Atlanta, what is that, 2023?
Hmm.
Yeah, because this year was 2024. So
Hmm.
going to QuiltCon alone in Atlanta in 2023 was terrifying.
Oh, I'm
I
sure.
also wasn't on anxiety meds at that point either. So
Mm.
make of that what you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like it was terrifying because I was like, what if it's like, what if nobody wants to hang out with me? What if I don't even get invited to places? Like, what if,
Yeah.
what if, right?
Yeah.
But I am so glad that I went in with like really no agenda
Hmm.
whatsoever. I just kind of let things happen the way that they happened. If I was around a group of people, I'd say, "Hey, do you guys mind if I join you? I heard you guys talking about X, Y, and Z." Just kind of like trying to not be bestie buddies with everybody, but just kind of like make those connections because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we're all there for the same purpose. We're all there because a common thread
Oh my
connects
God.
that. I know I hate saying I like inwardly cringe so hard whenever I say that, but we're all there for a common thing. Like we
Yeah.
all like to quilt, we all like to even if it's not quilting, we all like to sew or we all like
Mhm.
to craft. We're doing something handiwork with our hands.
Yeah.
And that's really what connects us all
Hmm.
is and most of the time it's a majority of women,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
it's not always going to be a majority of women, which is fine.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. I loved meeting all the different people that I got to meet
Yeah.
and just like seeing who does what. I'm like, what do you do? What do
Yeah.
you do? Do you like to
Yeah.
long
Like,
arm? Are you embroidering? Like what do you do? Tell me what you
yeah.
like to do, you know? And
Yeah.
it's interesting. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
It's
that
so
was
fun.
really not having an agenda. The first time I went to QuiltCon, especially by myself, I
Hmm.
just popped earbuds in and walked around. I wore a mask that year
Mm.
because I just was so nervous about COVID at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
I'm still COVID conscious, but a little bit less so
Sure.
because I'm no longer immunocompromised.
Mm.
So, I am able to do that. But if somebody asks, like I always have a mask with me anyway, just in case
Yeah.
with like bigger
Sure.
events and stuff like that. So, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
But just like I wore a mask, I had headphones in, and I just kind of like la da 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 da, just kind of like
Yeah.
took my sweet time, did whatever I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I knew when I there was meetups happening, so I could go to them if I wanted to, or I didn't have to, so that
Yeah.
was it was good.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
I tried to keep sharing when people would do like meetups and stuff so that other people who follow me
Mm-hmm.
could either share or also come to the meetup. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that helps like too is like just helping people help inform people of when things are happening because there were like so many things I would start seeing like somebody's like talking about like a certain meetup or like a sticker
hmm
swap or whatever and I'm just like well how was I supposed to know that that was happening? It's like there's so many like little
hmm
side things, so I think
yeah,
it's kind of nice to see more people share because it's like then you can include people that maybe weren't aware or just haven't been to QuiltCon before or
yeah.
whatever. And like I'm so excited because like I got all my stuff ready to go. Like I'm going for 25 to Phoenix and my friend Jen is coming with me and because like after this year she was like I really want to go and I was like well it's in Phoenix like
Yay!
we got to
I love
fly.
that.
Yeah, so she was like okay, she's a big time quilter and I bought a print of all the juice boxes in the Ruby Star booth for her birthday because her birthday was at the end of March and she is like the biggest fangirl of Melody. So I had Melody the
Oh,
sign her. I was like, this is for my friend's birthday. And she was like, do you want me to sign it? I was like, yes. And so she like wrote a little note to her on the print.
so
And so
sweet.
when I gifted it to
She's so
Jen, she was like,
nice.
did she fucking sign this? I'm like, yeah, she did. And so then we were talking the other day because she like got all her
I
stuff.
love that.
And she was like, I'm like, guess what? She's like, what? I'm like, you're gonna get to actually meet Melody Miller. She was like, I get to meet Melody Miller. Like she was losing it. I was like, this is gonna be so fun. So I'm like so excited to like introduce her to it and like because she loves fabric and she loves sewing and quilting just as much as
Yeah,
all of us and like is just as big of a fangirl of like Ruby Star and Heather Ross and like all the
I love
fun
that.
like cutesy
It just
prints.
warms my heart.
I know. So I'm just
Anytime
like
somebody's like,
excited.
hey, I'm kind of think like one of my friends from my internship in college, she was like, hey, she's a phenomenal sewist,
Hmm.
okay? Like I like look up to her
Yeah.
as a sewist. And she messaged me on my personal Instagram. She's like, hey, I think I'm gonna get into quilting. And I was like,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
join us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my friend Jen is the one who was like dragged me into quilting. She was like, I'm gonna hold your hand and you're gonna make a fucking quilt. And I was like, okay. And she's the reason I quilt. So it's like I feel like it's like coming full circle. Like she brought me into
Oh,
it and
I
now I
love
get to like
that.
bring her with me into this part of it. And like I think it's gonna be so fun. But anyway,
That's
yeah.
so
So
wonderful.
it's like the community is so good. And I just love
Yeah,
like reaching out and getting to meet new people and talk to so
yeah.
many quilters from different backgrounds and different like we were saying, like
Experiences,
everybody's
yeah.
journey and experience of getting into it is so different. And it's just so fun to like hear the differences, but also find the
Yeah,
common connections and like just like bridge the gap for some people or like get more
yeah.
people introduced to like other types of
Yes.
quilters and
Yeah.
or
Yeah, my
connected to
thing is
shops
like,
where they can buy the fabric they want.
yes, my thing is like, how many people can I convert? You have to think about it too. Like everybody has that thing for them.
Hmm.
Like some people are really into cars.
Hmm.
Some people are really into, I don't know, Warhammer, the like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. And like
Yeah.
everybody, I think once you kind of find that thing
Hmm.
where it has a community with it, or you build a community with it, it's just like this like feeling like you're at
Hmm.
and like that's kind of how I would describe meeting all of these people at QuiltCon. Kind of like I always feel weird telling people that I quilt because they're like, "Oh, you're so young." And I'm like, "First of all, how young do you think I am?" Because that
Yeah.
could score you some brownie points. But secondly, I am not that young and you don't have to be old to quilt.
No,
Like,
exactly.
yes, things do come with years of experience, but
Yeah.
you just because you're 16 doesn't mean at 16 you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You could have been quilting since you were 7 and know more
Yeah.
than me.
Right.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
it just it's always kind of like a weird thing for me. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, well, what's your business? And I'm like, oh, well, I own a quilt shop. And they're like, a quilt shop? And I'm like, yeah.
Hmm.
And they're like, that's so cool.
You're like, I
Thank you.
know.
And then like sometimes the answer is, you do?
Hmm.
Quilting is for old people.
Like, no, it's not.
Last time I checked, there wasn't an age to enter like a club or something. Like,
Yeah. No, I
so
love breaking that stigma and that stereotype
yeah.
too, because like I think that's what helps, like it's just only going to help the quilting community, because I think that perception of it being like an old lady craft, quote unquote, like oh, only old ladies do that. It's like, no, actually, this can be for everybody. And you can make,
Hmm.
there's so many different options for making quilts out there. They don't have to be old,
Yeah.
brown,
They
like
don't
all the,
have to be traditional. They don't have to
yeah,
be modern. They don't have to
yeah,
be like artistic. You
yeah,
could be thread painting. You could be
yeah,
doing art quilts. You could just do service quilts for service members, for
yeah,
Quilts of Valor and things like
yeah,
that. Like there is
100%.
literally so much you can do with quilting, and there's
Hmm.
hand quilting, and like there's just so much. It's the same
Yeah.
thing with like cross stitch and needlepoint and hand I call them handcrafts, right?
Hmm.
Because it's easy to
Yeah.
group all of it together. But obviously it's not like a I
Yeah.
get well, yeah, I guess I'd consider like a craft a skill. Like I'm
Yeah.
calling it handcrafts is so like more towards
Yeah.
like a skill situation,
Right.
skill set.
Right.
Like those are things that like they are like there's some people who they just feel like they could never learn and
Right.
they wish they could do it, you know?
Hmm.
But same thing with like there are things that I don't think I could ever learn that I wish I could be better at,
Yeah.
you know? I think once you really find a community like this, and
Hmm.
for me it's been overwhelmingly positive. You know,
Yeah.
I haven't really had bad experiences, which is great, knock on wood,
Yeah.
with the quilting community. And
Hmm.
you know, I think part of it is also what you put into it.
Hmm.
I think a lot
Absolutely.
of it is what you put into it. If you
Absolutely.
try to be a good person and you try to be a kind person, I think
Hmm.
you're going to get that back too.
Yeah.
Not always, but
Right. But at least you know, like my husband's been working in 12-step programs forever, and like it's always like everything's a two-way street when
mhm,
you're interacting with someone else. And as long as you keep your side of the street clean, like their side
right.
is up to them. Like you can't
Yep.
clean it for them. And even if you point out that it's messy, that might not always work. But like if your side of the street is clean, then like you have nothing else to worry about, you know?
Yep.
And and
Same kind of thing.
sure,
Yep.
like things can go a different way, like but you can't control that. It's like, well, I know what I did, and I know that like my
Yeah.
side's clean, and I know I tried my best to be the best person I can be, and I did what I did out of love for myself and for that other person. Like
Yeah.
then that's all you can do, right? And I think you're
Exactly.
right. I think if that's what you put out, then that's what you'll get back most of the time. And I agree with
I
you, like it's been
yeah.
mostly overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that's really helped me too with being a business is just being self-aware.
Hmm.
Like unfortunately incredibly self-aware.
Yeah.
Like I think that if if you are running a business and you can't be honest with yourself,
Yeah.
and I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm so wonderful. I mean like truly you need to look at the worst parts of yourself and the best parts of yourself,
Hmm.
and you really need to think about what you're doing, you know,
Yeah.
when you run any sort of business
Hmm.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um, Now granted, it's just fabric for me. It's not that serious, right? You know,
Hmm.
but I think that leads you to the type of interactions you also have.
Exactly. Yeah,
So,
I think it's so true. And I think that the lack of self-awareness is where we kind of get into where, not we, but like where people can get into muddy situations because they might not be aware of how their behavior is coming
right,
across or how they're affecting other people with their
right,
behavior. And like if you don't know yourself very, very well, running a business is very fucking hard.
yes.
And
I mean, it's hard no matter what.
right,
Like, I
right. But
have to
it's
get, right? Like, you have to get up every day and decide what to do.
Mhm.
It's not like now some days are more productive than others,
Sure.
as we all are.
Yeah.
But it's not like I get up every day and I have to report to an office anymore. Like,
Hmm.
I am my own boss.
Yep.
And let me tell you something, she can be a bitch sometimes.
Yeah. She's real nasty.
No.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
and
I'm just
it's the
like,
same thing. Yeah, it's like, okay, where am I? Where did I like rely on other people to tell me what to do versus like how can I self-manage and like figure that out for myself? And like
yeah.
that transition is tricky. And like, because I went same thing. I like we started our business, my mom and I, when I was still teaching full time. And then
Hmm.
after I quit because COVID teaching killed me,
Fair.
stole my soul for a little while.
I understand.
Yeah. So like our kind of similar, like our little pipeline is kind of similar, but then I went full
Yeah.
time into the business and um
I got there eventually.
yeah, but then it
I
was
just
just like,
needed to cry in
oh,
a cold stone first.
right. I know. It's I cried so much, but
Yeah.
the but then when it was like the business was at my parents' house, it was like, okay, I felt like I need to get there on time so that my mom doesn't feel like I'm just like leaving her, so it
Right.
was like almost like even though we were like equal
Yeah.
partners, like, I still kinda looked at her as, like, the boss situation because she was
I
mostly
think it's
running.
hard not to. It's your mom.
I know, she's my mom, that's a dynamic, and then
Yeah.
on top of it, she had been running it by herself mostly when I was teaching because I could only ever come help her on my breaks in the summer, and
Yeah.
then to me being there full time, like, trying to figure out, like, "Okay, how do we make this work like this?" And then being able to, kind of using that as like, okay, I need to get there on time kind of thing. Cause it's like, I'm still going somewhere else to work. I'm not staying
Yeah.
home, even though I'm working for myself. And now that it's at my house, I'm like, oh, this is a whole new side of things because
Yeah.
now I have to, like you said, get out of bed. I have to go down. I have to
Yeah.
make a plan for the day, make sure I'm keeping projects moving forward. I have to check
Yes.
on all my clients to make sure I'm like in communication with them.
Hmm. And long arming in and of itself is project management,
Yep, 100%.
in my
100%.
opinion,
Yeah, it is.
now that I've added a little bit of it to my business.
Yeah. No, it is. And like you're trying to keep that like going and making sure it's like you're turning over quilts while you're like for me, like making
Yeah.
quilts for people because that's
Yeah, I know
the
you
other
do a
part
lot
of my
more
business.
custom than I do.
Yeah. So it's like it's definitely a balance and trying to find that doing it on my own now and not having my mom as like, oh,
It's
she'll
hard.
she'll get
It's
things
hard.
started. Yeah.
It is.
But
And I don't discount that at all because I
yeah,
understand like,
yeah.
like part of me is like, oh, woe is me. You have to get up and run your own business. But like,
Yeah.
I can't explain to you how many decisions I have to make on a daily basis. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it's literally the same thing as going into an office and having a job.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of the fact that like you have to make different kinds of decisions.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's all it is. It's just different kinds of decisions that you have to
Yeah.
make for you and yourself and
Yeah.
your business.
Yeah. Yeah,
But you're
there's
making them
nobody.
all day, every day.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because, like, as a teacher, I was constantly making decisions and I was like, I had to be
Yeah.
on all the time. And it was
Yep.
just like all these like little micro decisions constantly. And I would be exhausted, like on my drive home, just like
Yes.
mentally fatigued. And like,
Yeah.
if I didn't have the boys with me on my way home, like I would was just like drive home in silence a lot of times because
Yep.
I'm just like, I can't handle one more
Yep.
second of noise or
That's
someone else's voice or
that's exactly how it was when I left my corporate job, or
yeah,
when I was at my corporate job, rather,
yeah,
not even when I left it, because
yeah,
once I went back to the office, I was like, headphones,
yeah,
headphones. I need headphones. I can't do
yeah,
this. Can't do this open office stuff anymore. It's so
yeah.
funny how everything changes like
Yeah,
that.
it's wild. But yeah, now like having to be the decider for everything, which is my choice, and I acknowledge that. And again,
Same.
coming from an area of privilege where I can have this
Right.
business,
Right.
um,
That's the
there's
thing, is like, I acknowledge that. It's
yeah,
all my fault,
right. It's like I acknowledge that and I accept that, but at the
but
same
that
time,
doesn't mean it's not hard.
it doesn't mean it's not hard and it doesn't mean that I'm not like mentally fatiguing
Right.
myself because of all the decisions that have to be
It's a
made. And
different kind of hard.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm
anyway,
with you.
yeah, it's interesting, but
I'm there with you, girl. Trust me.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm glad you came and
Yeah.
I'm so excited because I just love your shop and I love what you're
Oh, thank
doing
you.
and I'm
I'm
just
trying.
yeah, no, I love that you're just like leaning into your passion and you're still using like I think that's so funny because like even as a teacher, like I got my educational technology masters and like there's just so many aspects of it that I use in business that I like
Mhm.
never would have thought, but
Yeah.
it's just like somehow even if we're not doing the original thing you set out to do, there's like bits of it that still live on in what you
Yeah.
currently do because it all informs
Yeah.
your current self, right? So
Yeah.
I love that you were able to still do the fashion side of things like you wanted to, but then morph it into something that suits you better and
Yeah.
gives you the life and the home, what am I trying to say? Like the home life that you want to have
Yeah.
and without sacrificing too much of that. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. So
Yeah.
anyway, and so you are on Instagram, you're at Lovering Quilt Co.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then
Yep, that's
your
correct.
same thing
And
for
then
your
my
website.
website is loveringquiltco.com. Come on over. I have lots of Ruby Star. I have a good clearance section now that I've been in business for a little while, and I can feel like I can put things on the clearance or sale section.
Nice.
Um, I don't have any sales upcoming, but there's always coupon codes floating around. So if you
Mm,
do enough research or if you look around enough, I'm sure you'll find one.
yeah. Okay. That's good. Little Easter eggs for people that can go
Yeah.
hunt for.
Kind of like Taylor Swift.
Ooh, I like it. So for all your Swifties out there, get your clown faces on and go find a discount code.
Get the little magnifying
Yeah,
glass.
I love it. Well, thanks again, and we'll obviously keep in touch.
Absolutely.